The social context of communication refers to the direct or indirect standards that govern communication. We acquire rules and subconsciously pick up communicational norms when we are socialized into our various communities. Some basic norms that regulate circumstances include don't lie to people, don't interrupt people, don't pass people in line, greet people when they welcome you, and thank people when they pay you a compliment, and so on. These guidelines are frequently relayed to children and students directly by parents and teachers. Rules may be repeated frequently by breaking them. Rules may be repeated frequently, and breaking them may result in punishment. Norms are social customs that humans learn through observation, repetition, and error. Until someone corrects us or criticizes us, we might not even be aware that we are breaking a societal norm. For instance, if you're a new employee and don't know the standard for being dressed, you are probably over or underdressed for the company's holiday party. Even if there probably isn't a set rule on what to wear to the holiday party, you will probably catch your mistake on your own and won't stray from the standard again to avoid any potential embarrassment. The social discomfort we experience when we violate social norms is usually sufficient enough to teach us that these norms are powerful even when they aren't made explicit like laws. This is true even though breaking societal norms don't result in the formal punishment that may be the result of breaking the law. In some circumstances, norms even have the authority to override social laws. To return to the earlier examples of common social standards, we might break the rules against lying if the lie is intended to spare someone else's feelings. We frequently interrupt close friends when they are engaged in a good conversation, but we would be less inclined to do so when a professor is teaching. Relational and cultural contexts are also incorporated in the transaction model to help us understand the various contexts that influence our communication because norms and rules fluctuate between individuals and cultures. The past, interpersonal history, and type of relationship we have with a person are included in the relational context. With someone we've recently met versus someone we've known for a while, we communicate differently. Initial encounters with people are typically more heavily scripted and guided by social norms with regulations, but once we have a relationship-based framework created, we may be more willing to bend or break social standards and rules. For instance, you might spend the entire day cleaning the house for the first time when you welcome your new neighbor around, as it is custom for you to be polite. You might not worry as much about having everything ready and cleaned up when you visit neighbors later if you wind up becoming friends with them and building a relational context. Relationship type is also included in relational context because communication norms and rules differ depending on the kind of relationship someone is in. For instance, many communication norms and procedures that apply to a relationship between a supervisor and a supervisee do not apply to the relationship between a brother and a sister and vice versa. Culture has an impact on how we interact, much as societal standards and our interpersonal histories do. Various aspects of identities such as race, gender, nationality, ethnicity, sexual orientation, class, and ability are included in the cultural context. In Chapter 2, Communication and Perception, we learn more about these identities, but for now it is critical that we recognize that, whether we are aware of it or not, everybody possesses a variety of cultural identities that affect our communication. Some people are continuously aware of how their cultural identities impact their communication and how others interact with them, especially whose identities have historically been marginalized. On the other hand, those who identify as dominant or in the majority may frequently, if ever, consider the influence of their cultural identities on their communication. It can be challenging to control when cultural context enters a communication interaction. In intercultural communication, it might discourage people from communicating across cultures or cause them to perceive it unfavorably. However, if you avoid speaking with people of other cultural backgrounds, you are unlikely to become more at You are unlikely to be more at. It can be challenging to control when cultural context enters a communication interaction. In, inter- it can be challenging to control when cultural context enters a communication interaction. In intercultural communication, it might discourage people from communicating across cultures or cause them to receive it unfavorably. However, if you avoid speaking with other people of other cultural backgrounds, you are unlikely to become more comfortable or efficient as a communicator. As we will see in Chapter 8, Culture and Communication, diversity is not necessarily a bad thing. Intercultural dialogue actually has the power to improve a number of elements of our life. It's crucial to maintain an open mind and refrain from judging others' cultural identities in order to interact efficiently across a variety of cultural situations. While you might be able to notice some influence of culture during a communication interaction, there might also be several that you cannot perceive. Since not all cultural identities are evident, a skilled communicator shouldn't assume to be aware of all the cultures a person brings to the conversation. Circumstances, like with the other contexts, take skill, and the best way to acquire these skills is through reflective learning.